Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome back to another video. My name is Tom. Thank you so much for joining me here today. It is a little bit windy out here, so we'll just have to make do. I hope the noise cancellation works out. Maybe, maybe not. Today's a special day. Today we celebrate the 1 year, I guess, anniversary of the delivery of the 2023 Chevrolet Bolt EUV Premier. I will call it the Bolt from now on, because that's a mouthful. A year ago today, I took delivery of this car after a massive, troubling storm that I went through with GM and the battery fire recall and everything else, all of which has been pretty much documented on this channel, along with many other channels of frustrated Chevrolet Bolt owners that were affected by the recall. Let me get inside the car real quick. Just so the wind doesn't kill us. Okay. This car has been a great value for me and my family. It basically saved us a ton of money over the year of use. I wanted to do a cost rundown. However, because of the situation of the last few months, I actually haven't been keeping track of the data, and I don't have a smart EVSE at home to track how much energy is going into the vehicle, so I can't calculate, relatively accurate numbers, because there were times where this car was sitting in this driveway for a week at a time at, 60, 50% state of charge because of various issues that I was dealing with at the time. But that said, this car is great. If you're in the market for an electric vehicle, I think the price point of this vehicle, although this vehicle was relatively expensive, it does have every feature that GM had originally put into this car. All the convenience, all the safety, the Super Cruise, an enhanced sound system. It's got the Bose craziness. It definitely, it promotes that pounding bass line, if you know what I mean. But this car for me has always been an asset. Every vehicle that I've ever owned has been an asset to me, more so than just a money pit of depreciating metal. And the reason for that is it allows me to do my job. It allows me to live my life. And now, living in this part of the world where traffic is just non-existent, I haven't seen a traffic jam in months. I think the last traffic jam I was in Charlotte, and that was rush hour. Everybody was leaving their offices and whatnot, downtown Charlotte. But it is what it is. So I thought I'd give you a quick run through of the vehicle, just in its current state. I do have to go get Eddie in a few minutes, but I thought, let's do this and just be done with it. Okay, so the car currently has 17,529 miles. You can see that right there. This average is not very accurate because I do reset that a lot. If we go into details here, you can see my average is a little bit better there. Lifetime average is 3.2 miles per kilowatt hour, which is about what it should be. You can also see my breakdown. I've never once seen battery conditioning have anything other than 0, so maybe that's because I live in a part of the world where battery conditioning is just not required. It does get cold here. I thought there were some nights that it was like 15, 16, 17 degrees outside, and I was 100% sure that in the morning this car would either be dragging or immediately conditioning. No, it hasn't. It hasn't had the need to. And I've never had a reduced power situation in this car, or I've never had it really take long at a charger either. But to get to a level 3 charger, it's a road trip on its own. So level 2 you can't really tell because it's already a slow charge as it is, but it is what it is. So my overall opinion of this vehicle is very positive. I Although it's had some hiccups, and I'll share those with you here in a second, it's been a very reliable car. Every time I get in and push the power button, this car is going. This car is ready to go. It even tells you that it's ready right here. Let me clean off that dust. Right there, it tells you it's ready to go. So, can't really, fault it for wanting to get up and go. This car is designed a little bit better than its predecessors, I think, in that I fit into it a little bit better. And by that I mean, I think this door, this little door ledge right here, it's in a good spot for my arm. It ends in a good spot, and it's contoured from my elbow pretty well. So when I'm actually sitting, and you can see I'm not the smallest guy, but when I'm sitting in this car, there's plenty of space. The seat's not all the way back. And that's another thing that I really like about, what I look for when I buy a car is, can I move the seat up enough that I'm still comfortable in that my legs, which are pretty long because I'm 6'5", if my legs are fully extended, like by the pedals, can I still see out the window? Or is this B-pillar in my way? Well, I can see perfectly fine. So if I'm merging into traffic, going through an intersection or whatever, I can see out both sides and I feel safe. I don't feel the need to do, one of these things. I do have to do that occasionally this way when I have a passenger sitting here, especially when they're looking past that B-pillar. So try to work that out. It's not a big deal, but I typically just tell them to move their seat back because they don't need to be seeing past the B-pillar. I need to be seeing, because I don't do backseat driving. I don't handle it very well. But anyway, so seat's not all the way back. City driving, this seat's about, I don't know, 3/4 of the way back, maybe 80% of the way back, so I can see out the window. On the freeway, it's a different story. If I'm driving, road tripping, I don't need to see out this window, at least not for anything more than the mirror. I will roll the seat all the way back and I will just literally stretch my legs out. I'll put the incline of the pad more flush to the base of the seat, and then it's comfortable. Super Cruise will do the driving. I'll just be reclining. Sometimes I can even cross my feet and sit in a position of, relax, where I'm not cramping or, feeling, squished in. I've never had that feeling. I've never had the claustrophobia set in for me here. I've always felt like there's plenty of room. Glass all around. I do love it. I love this especially. I've always been a sunroof kind of guy, and this just, adds that little bullet point to my list of things that I really appreciate about this car. The one issue that I've had with this car that was lengthy and troubling was a few months ago during I'll call them the dark ages, when I went dark and I wasn't recording videos or uploading to YouTube. This car, I was traveling to Los Angeles. I drove the car to Greenville Spartanburg Airport, which is, I don't know, 35, maybe 40 miles away. Actually, it could be more. It could be an hour away. So 60, 70 miles away. I had Super Cruise on. Boom, we were going. Made it to the airport, parked it, got out. I was gone for a week. I was gone from Sunday to Saturday. So 6 days. I came back Saturday. Super Cruise did not work. When you're driving, I'll show you. When you hit this button, forgive the angle, but it's the best I can do. When you turn on Super Cruise, when you're parked or whatever, it'll tell you Super Cruise unavailable, no road information. See that? Well, during that time when I came back from California, all it said was Super Cruise unavailable. It wasn't telling me no road information available, or, it's supposed to give you a reason why it's not available. This time it wasn't available at all. So when I came back from LA, I had to drive manually home. I was tired. I didn't want to deal with it. So I drove home. And then I kind of put it out of my mind because I don't use Super Cruise, obviously, in town. It doesn't work. I have to go up the 85 or out to the 26 or out to the 385 or whatever. And then I have Super Cruise. Or if I'm going up to Charlotte, up to 77, then I'll do that. But around here, I wasn't thinking about it. I went to the range, I guess maybe a week after I got back from LA. Forgot that Super Cruise wasn't working. Went to turn it on. It still said Super Cruise not available. So at that moment, I pushed that button right there. And I spoke to the on fellows. I call them on fellows because the button just says on and there's a little star above it. So OnStar. I called OnStar. I pushed the on button and I spoke to OnStar and they couldn't resolve it. They spent about 40 minutes of that drive talking to me and doing things. And I did tell them that I was on the freeway, that anything that they do, as long as it doesn't stop the car dead in its tracks, is fine. And they said, no, they don't have that kind of reach into the vehicle, blah, 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 and everything would be fine. So they did their thing, came and went, put me on hold, finally opened the case because it was becoming an issue where they couldn't tell if the Super Cruise module had failed, exploded, or whatever. The only thing they could tell was that the vehicle was recognizing that the module was installed and that it was ready or in standby, I think, as that guy, that was the term that the guy used. And no matter what I did with the button on a mapped freeway, it would say Super Cruise unavailable. So they checked their systems, they made sure everything was working. And the guy mentioned at that point that he hadn't heard of any outages with Super Cruise or anything like that that needed to be, addressed by engineers or anything like that. And I said, well, please escalate. This is a feature that I rely on, and it was a huge consideration for me to purchase this vehicle, and I would like to have it. Well, I'll save you the next 3 weeks because it took 20 days for them to resolve it from the moment I reported it to the moment it was resolved. And I didn't even know they resolved it because they said they would email me, and they were emailing me. About 3 days after I reported, they sent me an email saying, hey, your case has been resolved. And I literally just made a trip to go to Greenville just for fun, just for lunch or whatever. I took my son Edward with me and pushed the button, same thing. So I called them back and I said, I got this email saying my case has been closed. Has it been closed? Because Super Cruise still doesn't work. And the guy said, oh, okay, let me look at the records. So he looked at the file, the records, whatever. Got nowhere with it. He said, I need to escalate this. And I'm like, well, as long as the case hasn't been closed prematurely because I got this email saying that the incident or ticket or whatever was closed. And he said, no, we're working on it. It'll be fine. I'm like, well, we're pushing a week or, 10 days already. Can we get this going? And they said, yes, I will call you personally when your case is resolved. About 2 weeks later, again, driving around here, I put it out of my mind. 2 weeks later, I'm going back to the range because I do that monthly or so. I remember driving out through the forest roads and I thought of it and I'm like, I should call OnStar to find out what the status is because I haven't heard anything for, 2 weeks. And the person that answered said he would look, and then boom, the connection got cut off. And stupid me, I was driving through the forest. There's no cellular connectivity in these forests at all. If you're stranded, you better have SOS capability on a modern iPhone because you're not getting signal in any of these woods. So I lost the connection while he was trying to look. I figured, okay, let me just make it to the freeway, and when I'm on the freeway, I'll have cellular and I'll call him back. So I did that. I got on the 77, and wouldn't you know it, the minute I merged onto the freeway, that little white steering wheel up here showed up. And what's funny is when I'm looking out the windshield, I can physically see out of my peripheral vision that that steering wheel comes up, that it lights up, and I just push the button instinctively. I don't even have to look down to make sure it's available, and boom, it worked flawlessly. I did get a call back from OnStar on my cell phone. They said, we're still looking at the records. We're still trying to figure out. I may have to escalate again. And I said, listen, don't worry about it. It's working. I'm in Super Cruise right now. And he said, well, let me look at the notes. And he said, well, there's no notes here. And I said, something happened. And it took, 20 days. That was the 20th day. It took all that time for this to come back. And it finally came back. Perfect. Happy. And the guy said, well, we'll email you a response when the case is updated or the ticket's updated or closed. They never did. So I don't know what happened, but it went away and it came back. So it's back. It works. I just used it a few days ago, so I know it still works. But that was the only, that was the huge issue of this car. The other issue, which is actually a bug, and I'll share this with you real quick because it's already 2 o'clock and I do have to be at my son's school momentarily. So I will share this with you real quick. And this is kind of funny because I did escalate this. I took this through OnStar to Chevrolet, who ultimately, I guess, took it to GM. I also went to the dealership to get the recall addressed for the open ground on the EVSC, which, by the way, if you have one of these EVs, the Bolt EVs, that fits into that recall, get it done. It's a 20-minute task. They'll get you in, they'll get you out, they'll replace your EVSE, the one that the car ships with. And it's painless, it's, but do make an appointment and make sure that they have the part in stock because, so that was a recall that was fairly painless. But let me show you this bug because I was laughed at over the phone because they couldn't believe it. And it's still not fixed. So I don't know if this will be a software update in later models or whatever, but it bothers me a lot. Although I do know how to get past it. So if you get stuck, use this as a band-aid. So I'm going to show you this screen and hopefully you can see everything. But you guys know that when you're on the home screen, now your icons might line up differently because you can arrange these however you want. If you go into the camera, and forgive the dust because, well, it's piano black, whatever. If you go into the camera, and you can see that, I can, switch between all these different views, right? What you can't do is you can't exit that. Nothing. And actually, none of these buttons does anything. So can't get out of the camera view no matter what you do. It's not frozen or anything, it's still working. But here's the trick I learned. So, and I don't know if you can see this because I can't really see what the camera's recording right now, but if you punch the car into reverse, so let's do that. Put the foot on the brake, reverse. Okay. You see that the camera's in reverse? Well, push park, and you get the home screen. Yeah, when you do this, it stays on indefinitely. You can either do this trick or turn the car off and on again. That's the only 2 ways that I found that you can get out of the camera view. So it is what it is, but that's a bug. Sometimes it's the stupidest things, but it is what it is. As far as everything else goes, the materials inside are holding up fantastically. I've had dogs in here. I've had kids in here. If I showed you the back seat and the floor of the back seat, it probably triggers some kind of OCD complex in most of my viewers because, you know, it's disgustingly filthy. And no matter how many times we clean it, you know, all Eddie needs is 5 minutes back there and it looks like a bomb went off. The seats, very durable. The materials are holding up very well. Everything else is really well. Like, there's no rattles. When you drive this car, it's silent. I got this strange, I don't know if the seal might be either coming loose or just not puffy enough to, it generates a little whistle somewhere in here. And it goes away if you adjust the windows. Like, if you make it, if you bring the window down a little bit, obviously it opens the gap a little bit and it doesn't whistle anymore. But when the window's up all the way, it whistles a little bit at higher speeds. But if you got the tunes bumping, that's not an issue because you don't even hear it anymore at that point. There's no damage on the car. I think the only thing I did get was I scraped a curb at my son's school. And I'm not happy about that, but I'm also not sure how long those wheels are going to be on this car. I may get different wheels at some point. I'm also considering tinting these, blacking out the back, the door windows and the hatch lid. I'm also considering tinting this with a deep UV filter, so that way, you know, even though this is UV treated, I think it is. It doesn't say. It doesn't say. So maybe this does need to have a UV tint on it. And I'll do a UV tint on the UV filter, I should say, not UV tint. UV filter on the windshield, but keep its full transparency. I'll probably dim these down because I live in a place where I think you can dim these a little bit. So I'll dim those down and I'll black the rest out. So no big deal. At some point, I think that's about it. I can't think of anything else. Everything else works really well. The camera mirror works well. Super Cruise is back. Hopefully it's here to stay. The car does have 17,529 miles on it. And honestly, I thought that's a lot more than I thought I would ever put on here. But I've been doing a lot of road trips up north to Pennsylvania. And I've said it before, I love this car for road trips. Yeah, it's a slow charging vehicle with 55 kilowatt charging. But you know what? I don't need 15-20 minute charging. I need hour-long charging. And the reason for that is because I've wrapped this car into my lifestyle, right? So when I go on a road trip, I plan a day of driving, especially if I'm driving 644 miles, which is from here to my family's house up in Pennsylvania. I literally know that if I leave at 3:30 in the morning, which is typically what we do, we'll get there about 16 hours later. With all the charging, I think it's 5 or 6 charging stops along the way, and there's no rush. Every charging stop is an opportunity for life lived. We get out, especially if I have my son with me, we'll get out, we'll walk around, we'll play around. If it's raining, we sleep. That's just how it goes. And also, you get enough time at some of these stops, because at one of those stops, I have to charge to 100%. Because you end up going through mountains of Virginia, and if you don't charge to 100%, then you have to stop one additional charging stop, and I just don't want to do that. So a Better Route Planner, great app. If you have an EV, use it because it integrates with the car, and it's fantastic. It'll use live data to calculate your next charging stop, and it works out great. It tells you how long you have to sit there. It tells you everything you need to know, and it's great. We'll get out, we'll do our thing, maybe buy some food, buy some refreshments, snacks, whatever, get back in the car. If he's, you know, hyper and awake, I'll send him out. I'll tell him to run around a little bit. run up a hill or run through the grass. There's typically some grass somewhere. And that's how we do it. And then when he's done, 15, 20 minutes later, he gets back in the car. He relaxes, you know, maybe draws something or goes on his iPad. I'll tell him, I need you to be good. I need you to be quiet. I'm going to sleep. And I go to sleep. I nap. Great opportunity for it. Every charging stop is an opportunity for a nap. And when you're driving hundreds of miles, I don't know how I drove that trip when I was younger in 10 hours straight through. And I did that from Atlanta. So it's 1,008 miles from Atlanta. So yeah, no, I think it's, I think it's fantastic. I really do. I have no complaints. I've never felt like I was rushed or under pressure because I plan around it. I don't, you know, see this car's speed of charging as a handicap. I see it as an opportunity. And that's kind of how I've always dealt with this car. I've had people ask me, like, why don't you upgrade to a Tesla? You know, you can be in and out, or one of the faster, you know, charging EVs that are out on the market now. I said, for one, I don't want those EVs. And two, I don't need to spend that kind of money to have faster in and out. You know, I used to go into gas stations, fill up, and then take my time to walk around the store. I'd still be sitting there. Sometimes I would have to leave the gas pump. You know, like the last car I had before I got into the EV world, I had a diesel Jetta, a TDI, that I would fill up, and then I would literally pull that car to a parking spot out front of the little store, the convenience mart, and I would literally be in there 15, 20 minutes, sometimes 30 minutes, just looking at stuff. Maybe looking at a magazine, or because I need the break. I need the physical disconnect. I can't just pull in, fuel up, and then get out and do it all over again. That's not me. I don't work that way. The older I get, the more I enjoy my time, the more I feel like I just much rather take my time and plan around it. And so, yeah, road trips, no problem. Travel day. 2 travel days per road trip. If I do more than 200 miles, there's going to be a travel day. No problem. Problem solved. And that's it. Really, there's nothing else to say. This car has been solid. The drivetrain, solid. Battery pack, solid. Air conditioning, heating, my God, solid. Let me tell you something. This car in the morning, when it's 18 degrees outside, you know, in the depth of January or whatever, and it, you know, an Arctic blast decides to come down this way, which, by the way, this last Arctic blast lasted 3 weeks. It was really cold here during the days and nights. I think the high was 33, the low was like 16. I've never seen that here in the, almost 2 years that we've been here. But I just feel like this car is phenomenal, because remote start, the little, you know, lock and then start button on the remote, or use the app on the phone or iPad or whatever, works wonders. Because you just start the vehicle, it gives you a 20-minute warm-up, and then it's on, you know, it's ready when you get into it. Warms up the seats, warms up the steering wheel, defogs the windows. I mean, what else could you want, really? I feel like this car has been a great investment for me. It'll definitely help me continue doing work. Like I said, got to plan around charging stops. It's no big deal. I've never been a 9-to-5 kind of work guy. I've been a, you know, get up and go and then get home when you're done type of guy. So if I leave at 10 a.m. and I get home at midnight, that's my schedule. And most of my work in the IT world relies on people to not be awake when I do my job anyway. So it works out because then when I do go into a site or an office or whatever, you know, it's after their working hours anyway, so it's no problem. And then if I need a charge, no problem. Charging stations are open 24/7. Yeah, that's it. I can't really complain. I do love this car. I see myself with it for the foreseeable future. I may buy a second vehicle to have kind of a more rugged vehicle, because I don't want to, you know, fold the seats down and load this car up with, you know, boxes or stuff like that. I just keep this as a road tripper, kind of a clean car, and then maybe get like a 20-year-old SUV or like a 3rd-gen 4Runner or something like that for relatively cheap, especially if I can find one that's manual, because 5 speeds, man. Whew. Yeah, or a diesel, maybe get a diesel again, but in any case, that's going to be something to consider for down the line. But this car is going to be a one-owner car until the wheels fall off. And yeah, I drove it through an ice storm in January, the beginning of January, when I came back from Pennsylvania. There were some videos on my social media. If you're not following, go ahead and head over to Facebook and Instagram, and just, you know, you'll see me, and just, you know, you'll see all the content there too. Drove through an ice storm. That actually disabled cruise control, all the safety features and everything, because the forward sensors got blocked by slush and snow and you know, all the road salt and everything. So the only recommendation I can make to anybody who does drive this car in the wintertime, or has severe weather conditions in other parts of the country or other parts of the world, is wash your car regularly. Wash it, and wash it with a decent soap, wash it with decent water, and do it in a way where it won't freeze or won't be subjected to chemicals for longer periods of time than what it needs to be, because of the fact that those chemicals do cause corrosion, they'll cause rust, they may muck up terminals for the pack, for the electrical system, the high voltage system, everything, and you don't want those kind of maintenance headaches for a vehicle that really doesn't require maintenance. This car had a maintenance, and you know what they did? They rotated the tires. Because that's it. I don't have a jack. I used to have a jack, like a floor jack, and some stands that I could put my vehicles on, and I used to do all my own rotations. I even did brakes once. I'm too old for that stuff now. You know, I don't know, maybe a level of laziness just kicked in that is, you know, preventing me from actually unlocking my brain to jack my car up and put it on stands and, you know, get the impact out and take wheels off, rotate the wheels. I also don't have a TPMS relearn tool, which I guess is easy enough to do. But that's money that I'd have to spend. I don't want to deal with that. Take it to a shop, pay them the $40 to rotate my wheels, and I'm on the road again, you know, 20 minutes later. Car's great. I have really no complaints outside of the bugs and the bugs in the interface and the infotainment screen system thing. And the Super Cruise, this car's had 0 issues. Everything else works. No weird noises, no weird stops or anything. It survived, you know, 2 hot summers, incredibly hot summers, and then a very cold winter this past year without problems. So I had it in snow, I had it on ice. By the way, this car handled better than most larger cars on the road. When we were driving on the freeways out of Pennsylvania in January, I literally watched cars doing this. Vans. I even saw a trailer, you know, from a semi-trailer, kind of fishtailing, almost losing controls. There were vans in the grass in the median, upside down on their side, and Eddie was scared that we were next, that we were gonna, you know, flip over or do that. And I said, Bud, look, watch this. And I did this with the steering wheel, and the car just went smooth. I don't know if it was the weight of the car. I know this car is very heavy, but it handled very well. And mind you, this car does not handle very well on water. Every time you step on the gas and the line's wet or whatever, you're spinning your wheels. On the freeway, this thing went. It's handled very well on a freeway with slushy conditions. I didn't feel like the car was slipping out of, you know, out of its lane or fishtailing or any of that. I didn't have like power transfer issues where the limited slip was, you know, shifting power between the front wheels. Didn't have any of that. This car is phenomenal. I definitely wouldn't take it up a mountain in that condition, but on a flat road, perfectly fine. And thankfully the snowstorm was north of the mountains of Virginia, so I didn't have to worry about going at a steep grade downhill on ice or any of that. I would have pulled off and found a hotel for that night, which is also something you have to consider when planning your road trips. Leave a day earlier if there's bad weather to be scheduled, or leave the next day if you can, because the weather will be past you or whatever. It's all part of it. Anyway, thank you guys so much for joining me on this video. You guys can see that this channel is kind of evolving. There's more theatrical stuff, more lighting stuff, more special effects stuff that I'm putting up, because that's more behind the scenes than anything else. This vehicle will stay and we'll have content on it, and as time goes on, hopefully we'll do some modifications to it. Like I said, tint, maybe replace the wheels and tires, and also I might take apart the hatch in the back and rewire some brake lights, because that's kind of a frustrating thing for me. I think that's an oversight. That's a design oversight at the factory, and I want to have every light back there on when I step on the brake, not just something that's like a foot off the ground. That's just not cool. I want every light on to indicate that I'm stopping or that I'm slowing down, because I can't tell you how many times I've seen in the mirror that somebody reacts at the last second and you see their car, you know, doing that because they didn't see my taillights. They didn't see my brake lights specifically. So I think that's going to be something that we pull out the wiring diagram, we get some connectors and LED drivers, and we make it happen. So stay tuned for that. I'm definitely going to wait until the spring, because I'm not tearing anything apart when it's 55 degrees outside. It's nice, but it's not nice enough to warrant having to get multiple layers of clothing on. So until next time, thank you guys so much for joining me. Why don't you guys stick around for the road trip to Eddie's school, and I will see you next time. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you.